It's fight day here in Australia. It's Wednesday morning, 6:30 a.m. Wherever you're tuning in, I say welcome. We'll start this video with doing some check-ins. Let me know where you're coming from. Let me know if you got action on tonight's fights in Queensland, Australia. In this video, the first part, I'm gonna go over my parlay for this Australian card. Also, there's some money line, I think easy money to make here tonight in Australia. We do really well on these Aussie cards, and also some method of victory options on these fights tonight. So check your books, see if you're getting the options for method of victories, and we're gonna go over that. But a little fun fact to start this live stream, because I got an unprecedented amount of questions about the John Pascal fight versus Sislak this weekend. I'm just gonna leave you with this. John Pascal fought Brian Norman Jr.'s dad, in 2007 to a decision. That's how old Pascal is. Brian Norman. He fought Carl Froch in 2008. Bernard Hopkins. Like, what's he still fighting for? But that shows you how weak that cruiserweight division is. So I just wanted to let you know about that. Here we go. 6:30. So yeah, we got 26 people checking in. Wherever you are, all I ask, guys, like the video. And let's get this thing marinating. I have a parlay already posted. The money line, guys, we'll start there. I'll start and I'll answer your questions in a second. Give me a couple minutes. I'll go over what I have action on as of now. Now, like always on these bets, guys, you could either follow my lead or you could pick and choose sort of bets that you feel comfortable with and then attach them to something else. Whenever we have a standalone card like this, Wednesday night in Australia, and then we have all the fights coming up this weekend, for me, maybe it's OCD for me, I don't like waiting. I like focusing on the fights today. Whether I win or lose, I'll carry that over into the weekend. But I know a lot of you guys will pick and choose a fight here, piece together something here, and that works for you too. Whatever your system is, let's get after this money. All right, let's go over the money line odds real quick. Now, if you haven't seen my breakdown, analysis, and prediction of the two main fights on this card, it's on my playlist section, fight predictions. There's the uninterrupted, edited prediction videos where I break down the Liam Wilson fight and the Paro fight. I'm obviously taking Liam Wilson to beat Aymar Jimenez. Aymar Jimenez is going to be a tough guy. If you watch his tape, if you watch Jimenez's tape, you know, he's an Argentinian fighter. He wants to be flashy. You know what I'm saying? He wants to be flashy. I think Jimenez thinks he's a certain type of level in terms of what you see. He's having fun in there. His hands are down a lot. He enters the pocket, drops his jab, exit, drops his guard, dances, a bit of a mover. I just don't think he's at that world-class level. When you think of Liam Wilson, if you really like Wilson, if you watch him fight, you know, he's fought for a couple world titles. Call it for what you will. Didn't go his way against Navarro. Didn't go his way against Valdez. But the thing Wilson does have in his arsenal is his lead left hook. He's looking for that. They call him Mr. Damage Countryside here for a reason. On the money line, Wilson's a $1.19. Jimenez is $5.40. I mean, if you piece together a nice long parlay starting with this fight and ending up at the, this weekend, $1.19 is decent odds to build a long parlay around. Now, if you want something juicier in the moment, adding more value, I'm taking Wilson by decision. So I think, Wilson, if you hear all the media this week, if you hear what his team is saying, his promotional company, they feel, and this goes for Paro too, but we'll get to him in a second. They feel Wilson with a victory here in Queensland, it'll propel him to another big fight. So, the one thing that, is going for him is the power advantage. I don't think Jimenez could hurt him. And the fight's in Australia. This is a showcase. This is home cooking. It's not quite a feeder fight, but there are some feeder fights on this card, which I'll get to. So I like Wilson by decision. That's $1.67. So once again, a couple weeks, if you like $1.67 and you're comfortable Wilson by decision, you could just go heavy on that. A couple weeks ago, if you would, I did a Josh Kelly to stop Fabio Bea at $1.80. So you do the math, you go heavy on $1.80 for the sake of, increments. 10 grand on $1.80 gets you 8,000 back, to keep things simple. $100 gets you 80 back. So if you like the Liam Wilson by decision, like I said, you could either go heavy at $1.67 or build a parlay around that. I think Jimenez will be a little bit slick. I don't think I'm comfortable with Wilson winning a decision. I think he's gonna, get his respect early, do what he wants. Jimenez is a bit of a mover, and I'm comfortable with that. But that's on a separate parlay. I have two working tonight: moneyline parlay, method of victory parlay. The other, yeah, no, we'll get there first. So PJ, let me answer. He does have a knockout left hook. He does. That's what I'm saying, and I'm worried about that. So if you look at the odds, Liam could knock Jimenez out, but I expect Jimenez to be a bit craftier than some of Liam's. Look who Liam's knocked out in the past. I mean, he did stop Yusuf Dib. Liam by knockouts 375, better value. So there's a lot of value on the knockout, and it could be worth something sprinkling that on its own if he's able to land it. Exactly. So, I don't want to say Wilson doesn't have the most diverse offensive arsenal. You know what I'm saying? And Jimenez is going to have the better feet. The thing is, Jimenez does keep his guard down. So it'll be up to you guys to wrestle with that, whether you want Wilson by decision or Wilson by stoppage or just Wilson by money line. That's why this is called gambling. Whatever you feel, whatever you've seen on the film study, whatever you've seen on the tape, that's going to be on you. I never force you guys to make any picks. I only tell you what I'm rolling on. And I respect the people who follow me, take my bets, and I respect the guys who disagree equally the same. That's why we like this channel. Okay. Liam Paro, so the Paro fight, guys, I don't know if you got to see my breakdown. This is an interesting fight because, he's fighting a guy in Jonathan Navarro that a lot of mainstream fight fans won't know who Navarro is. But all you have to do is dig a little bit deeper to get to know who Jonathan Navarro is. This is a guy that was brought up by a Golden Boy, brought up by Oscar De La Hoya, the 2017s, 2018s, heralded as the guy, had a good amateur background, comes from a fighting family. His brothers are boxers, his cousins are boxers. He's been around the sport his entire life. I think he's an East LA kid. But then you look at his box rec, and he didn't fight from 19 to 24. He took 5 years off. Now, you have to think about that. And Daniel Vega's correct. He's a Robert Garcia guy. So what does that tell us about Robert Garcia fighters? He's going to pressure you. He's going to have good body work. He's going to be in your face. He's going to be on the front foot. All the sort of, common denominators with Robert Garcia fighters. But the thing about, Navarro is that 5 years. Now, if you're a Navarro fan, I wouldn't be as worried as if Navarro was 33 because he's only 28. So those years, 23 to 28, he came back in 2024. He didn't win his last fight. He had mixed results. Won one fight when he came back, lost one. He feels though those were just shaking the rust off, and he feels going into this fight, he's gonna pull an upset and take all the hype that Paro wants to build again on his path to becoming a champion. But it's hard to get past the 5 years out. He was battling injuries, COVID. He had a bad bicep tear. And so, the bicep tendon, you either tear it here or you tear it here. When you tear it here, it folds up and you have to reconnect it. So when you reattach that tendon to the bone, if you rush back and a lot of times people will keep re-tearing it. So it becomes this sort of really, really frustrating thing. And what pro fighters, pro athletes, one of the things when they get injured and have surgery, sometimes think about Dominic Cruz. I know it's a UFC analogy, but Cruz, the middle part of his career, was battling a plantar fasciitis issue. He kept tearing the arch of his foot. And Cruz's style, footwork heavy, a lot of movement, a lot of switching stances, this sort of thing. And he kept re-tearing it. And, time goes by pretty quick. And before you know it, he loses a couple years on his career and in his prime. And some would say he was never the same guy, never was able to get to that level again. So Navarro, in his head, he thinks, though, that he hasn't even seen his highest level, and it's a bicep, not a foot. But as a puncher, it has to be in your mind. So all of that aside, I think Paro, this is the guy who went to Puerto Rico. Also, I got to mention this. Styles make fights, So look how Liam Paro fared against Subaru Matias versus how Paro fared against Hitchens. Two very different styles. Liam Paro, I think he's at his best when he's fighting a puncher, a guy who wants to, land a big shot, because Paro then is able to use what he's really good at. Now, he struggled with Hitchens, a boxer, a guy with a quick reflexes, a guy with a great jab, and you saw Paro didn't really have a lot of answers to Hitchens. And even though on the box rec, it says he lost a split decision, I thought that judge who gave Liam that fight, I watched the fight a couple times, I was shocked. Even though I picked Liam to win, I lost a bet. I was like, he didn't win this fight. Hitchens clearly won this fight. And then that was part of the reason I doubled down and took Hitchens to be George by stoppage from basically what I saw the skill set again by Hitchens. But that being said, Navarro isn't Hitchens, Navarro isn't Matias, but Navarro is going to fight a little bit more similar to Matias in terms of what he wants to do. Come on that front foot. He's going to want to, he said he's going to go for the stoppage against Paro. Now, are you comfortable with thinking and predicting that Liam Paro is going to be the guy who stopped Montana Love or the guy who knocked out Brock Jarvis? Because even in those stoppages, it wasn't necessarily Paro was on his front foot. They came to him and he caught them. So I could see that happening as well. You got to take into consideration, though, with everything at stake, from Liam Wilson's perspective and Liam Paro's perspective, everything at stake in terms of the smart fight, how their game plan, all they have to do is go in there and get a victory. You know, this is a big fight for both of their careers. One would even call it a trajectory fight. So to answer your question, Blessings, I know you just tapped in right now. I have 2 separate tickets tonight. A long parlay with the money line on both guys, Paro and Wilson, but then on a separate, I'm leaning towards the decision on both guys. So if you take Paro by decision, he's $2.30, and Wilson by decision, $1.67. But you know, I'm not married to that yet. I could be talked out of it. Randall Light in the house, guys. Everybody who's tapping in right now, we're about 11 minutes in. If you see Wilson or Paro stopping Jimenez or Navarro, sell me on it right now. Let me hear it, because I'm interested. I want to see if any of you guys are very comfortable with either Paro or Wilson stopping their opponent, because if so, you know, there's good value there. I think these are only 10-round fights too, so keep that in mind. Yeah, these are 10-rounders. Keep that in mind, less time to work, you know. Okay, Wilson, in that, so Blessings, that's the way. Wilson by decision, Paro by money line, good odds. Sed in the house, Blessings in the house. Cedric Walcott, appreciate you, always supporting the channel. Can you see stop and nav? How do you see Paro? Do you see him breaking it down? Do you think he stops Navarro mid or late? Because Navarro is going to be aggressive. He talked about that. And, you know, Paro's going to be the sharper guy, 100 to get 70. Yeah, so Blessings, like, you know, Blessings has a little 2-leg action. Was it Wilson money line or Paro money line, Wilson by decision? Was that what you had? Type it, you know, I'll do a post after this. You guys could type your parlays. Paro by stoppage, BZ stop. I agree, Vega. It just, you know, from here, it just depends on, and this is why betting, you know, it comes down to a bit of intuition. How heavy do you want to go? And are you comfortable moving from the money line safer bet to the more advanced, higher odds, better return, but higher risk method of victory? I got Paro by decision, Wilson over. See, Randall, I'm not getting these overs. We're not even being offered the overs. The only G 4K on Wilson. Nice, dude. 4K for Wilson to win. Let's go. I think Vegas Larfield. I've watched. We could let's talk about Vegas for a bit, and then also Kira Rustin. You might recognize Kira Rustin from my channel. I featured Rustin only has a handful of pro fights. I featured him on my channel the last few times he's fought. Mate, Kira Rustin ticks all the boxes so far. When you're looking at a domestic guy who wants to become a domestic, go from prospect to contender. Yeah, I think both guys are going to want to be a stoppage, but if you want to add a little bit of juice, check the odds for Kira Rustin. He's going to win the fight, and Vegas Larfield should put on an electric performance too. He's finally getting the sort of 4K to get 650. Yeah, DJ, is the juice worth the squeeze on that? Go, let me get at you real quick. Yeah, you know, to piggyback off DJ's comment, betting 4K to get 650 back, that's up to you guys and your bankroll. You got to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? I know a guy who bet 20 grand. He does this consistently. He'll bet $20,000 to win like 4,000. So like, I don't roll that way. Yeah, DJ, I ain't about that life either. You gotta talk about, I mean, now if you look at ROI, return of investment, on anything, if you're doing stocks, if you're doing crypto, whatever that may be, you know, 20 grand to get 3,000 or 4,000 back, you know, you might be able to create a narrative and sell me on a debate why that's worth it. But for me, risk versus reward, knowing the game, I feel more comfortable throwing 20 G's on like a two-leg money line parlay, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Never underestimate. Here we go. Bring it on. The Mexicans in the UK is like a whole different level of a fighter. If we had our boxing video game, I need to get half back, 100%. I'm gonna answer Goat's question though. I'm gonna shift to Goat. He asked, Boz, I'm a huge, dude, the drunken, huge Manuel Augustus. I did a doco on Emmanuel Augustus before. I'm gonna answer Goat's question though. He's asking if we're getting any props on the Deontay Wilder fight. No props. That might change though. It's only Wednesday morning here. Goat. So I don't even know if I'm gonna bet on the Wilder fight. We'll see. I don't know. I'd be going against my methods of betting, because I mean, do you really want to put money? It's like betting on a Jake Paul fight. Do you really want to invest money no matter how little or big it is? Zerto Dorticos. I'm uploading the Zerto Ramirez versus Dorticos fight tape tomorrow. I'm also today I'm uploading Tevin Farmer versus Floyd Schofield. Yeah, Zerto's gonna win. I mean, I think we would be ill-advised, and even if you're not a Zerto fan, you're gonna have to sell me on a fight strategy or path to victory for Dorticos to win. I don't see it. There's a lot of interesting fights. Yeah, there's a lot of these. Like, think about it, guys. You got Zerto versus Dorticos. When I say interesting, I mean kind of like makes you scratch your head. Wilder's fighting. John Pascal is fighting. He just turned 58 years old. I'm kidding, he's 42, but like I said, he fought. John Pascal's fighting. He fought Brian Norman in 2007. That's insane. He fought Carl Froch in 2008. Bernard Hopkins this is the same guy who's fighting. Like, I think it's a testament to that division. That division needs a little bit of life injected into it when we got John Pascal one victory away from probably fighting for a world title, which is insane. But that's the sport. I mean, you could say the same thing about, look who, 160. You got, Janibek Alamhanaleh, legit. You got Carlos Adames, legit. But isn't Lara's still there? Anyone rocking with Tev? I am. So, Boz, let's talk about this. So, we're 18 minutes in, guys. Do you want to start? Because it was juicy yesterday on the live stream. Do you want to get into Farmer Schofield now? Or do you want to, let's collectively pick a topic for the next few minutes, because we could go Schofield Farmer and go back and forth with this one, because I know some of you guys are loving the money on both ends. I'm interested, like, if Rando's on this, Rando, if you're here, Cedric, if you're here, Goat, if you're here, PJ, some of the guys that are always, pitching in. Who are you? Okay. Purple Posse, I agree. Let's hear, who are you guys leaning with then? Let's go rapid fire. Who wins, Tevin Farmer or Schofield? Okay, over in the Tevin fight. Let's see if I get that. Yeah, I'm going to. Farmer, late, Mark Vasquez. So, guys, if you're tapping in right now, we're going over Floyd Schofield versus Farmer, and all the boys are putting their picks. Kid Austin, okay, we're seeing back and forth. Farmer, Austin. I can't pick, just going to go over Vega. I think said the same thing. Walcott, Tevin by decision. What's the over right now? Yeah, because the money line right now is actually shifting wider. From last night to this morning, more money is coming in on Schofield. So I see Farmer, he's actually a bigger underdog by a little bit. Okay, so I'm seeing this is why it's a fun fight. Tevin could get robbed, like the over. It said, yep, like the over. Floyd by stoppage. Okay. That's insane. I mean, Farmer has only been stopped in his first pro fight, and then he got stopped, I think, in his 10th, somewhere like in the 10th pro fight. He's a tough out. He's tricky. No matter what position they get in, Farmer going to have him at least one eye on Floyd. Okay, so I'm not getting the over option. Do you guys think that fight will go the distance? Scoffield versus Farmer. Do you think that goes to the final bell? Because I've seen at least 3 of you boys saying that Scoffield stops him. That's over 5-1 odds. They see something in Farmer they can capitalize on. Tevin will get trouble, but I think he's ready to full count. Yeah, yeah, Cedric, if you're still here, what's the over and under you're getting? The odds, yeah, the odds on the decision. So Farmer by decision's 360. The distance will. Floyd by decision's $2. Floyd by stoppage is $5.60. Tevin by stoppage is $7 if they pay. Okay, I'm gonna give you my input now. So I'm seeing a lot of back and forth. This is where I stand now. I mean, he's coming off. You know, he lost to the Murataya fight. Like people, you know, what have you done for me lately? He lost back-to-back against Zepeda, and I picked Zepeda to win both fights. But we know both fights were close. Farmer dropped Zepeda in one of those fights, and look at the scorecards on the second one. I still had Farmer winning those fights. It's just that I still had Zepeda winning those fights. It's just that Farmer, I think, needs to do a little bit more at the end of each round. He lost to Murataya as well. Those are tough fights. You know what I'm saying? He's 34, turning 35. Zepeda couldn't stop him. He hasn't got stopped in a long. I mean, when's the last time he got stopped? I'm not sold on Scoffield. I am. Guys, I'm doing a live stream for the fights tonight. So to answer your question, that'll be in about 12 hours. So wherever you are in the world, come to the channel, hit the bell notification. I'm gonna be live streaming the fights. But I'm not sold on Scoffield. I'm not. It's hard for me to look past Tevin Farmer's world class. I think Tevin Farmer's boxing skills are world class. I do. He could be comfortable on the outside, on the inside. He's slick. He could survive a scare. He's smart. We've seen him get hurt and then hold. He's been deducted points before by clinching, but that was tactical, so he wouldn't go to the ground. He's very crafty. I don't see that craftiness in Floyd. He's 22. Nothing against Floyd. He's by far a finished product. He doesn't even know how good he is. So I think Floyd Scofield's fans and the people betting money on him is a bigger risk, even though he's a favorite. I think even though Scofield's a favorite, people betting money on him to win is a bigger risk than taking Farmer as an underdog, because you know what you're getting with Farmer. For Scoffield to beat Farmer with Farmer's skill set, we're going to have to see a Scoffield that we've never seen before. I haven't seen him fight in which I think he would beat Farmer in any of his fights. I would debate somebody on that. I mean, you could do resumes, which isn't really Philly not cut like that, which is, I really don't like if we're doing a debate just based on resumes. That could be fun, but I wouldn't bet on that debate. So you think Scofield's going to win more rounds based on winning points? I see you going the distance. What's up, Johnny? Carlos Vegas. Yeah, Philly's one of the toughest towns in the U.S. I mean, look at the boxers they create. I think he was joking with you. Okay, I'm not sold on him either. This isn't supposed to be clickbait material, but it sits. I don't like. He left a bad taste in my mouth with how that Shakur Stevenson thing fell apart. Now, even if he was really sick, let's side on the air of caution and believe him in his camp, which I always do. We saw him in the hospital. Some people will say that was staged. But to do that the night away, like that close to the fight, they had to see things leading up if that were the case. They had to know their guy wasn't ready. Yeah, so Purple Posse, how could you feel comfortable betting on him to win then? Liam Wilson wins the fight. And this is Will Mill. You bring up a good point. I've gotten burned the last few weeks going against the world-class level seasoned veteran. We all know that. I'll be the first to admit it. Francisco Rodriguez, Nonito Donaire. I think this is another one of those similar. Said, a lot of people do. And the reason why that leaves a bad taste in my mouth is because then if he ducked him, then you do that for clout, then where's your head at? You know what I'm saying? Where's your head at? Psychologically. Because you know Farmer's not going to be rattled in there. Farmer's a pro. And I use that term metaphorically. When you're talking about a guy who's a pro, this is a guy who's been hurt before, who knows how to weather a storm, who's not going to be rattled psychologically. He's going to execute a game plan. He's going to follow a game plan. He's going to study film. He's going to study tape. He's going to do all of his road work. He's going to do all the little things. He still thinks he's going to be a champion. I don't see any, even in the last fight, I didn't see a guy who was just going in there for a payday against Zepeda. That's a tough fight, dude. Zepeda's a tough fight. I'm not betting any money on Jake Paul. I haven't bet one dime on. I'll never put a dime towards a Jake Paul fight. Gut shot feeling, Johnny, sometimes that's it. You see the Farmer fight going the distance. I could see the fight going the distance. Yeah, Farmer's a skill vet. That's a, you gotta use that in when you're thinking about who you're taking. That has to be the major narrative. What's the major narrative? All right, what does Floyd do better than Farmer? Are we gonna say Floyd's a knockout artist? Are we gonna say Floyd's gonna outbox him? Are we gonna say Floyd's younger? You know, more explosive. You know, fat. I don't even. The things that you're gonna give output, the things you're gonna give Floyd. I still don't think those things are enough to beat a guy like Farmer. It's a great matchup. I salute. I mean, if hats off to Floyd's team, and you're right. Somebody said it earlier. Floyd's team sees something in Farmer that they think they go in. Every fighter, generally, if a fighter is still trying to be a world champion, they all think they're going to win. We know that that's not always the case. Liam Wilson wins. We covered that early in the live stream. Sorry if you tapped in late. Yeah, and check out my breakdown of Liam Wilson. It's on the channel, guys. Scoffield, fresher legs. It's only a 10-rounder. Okay, so fresher legs. The youth is on his side. I mean, we saw this go. You know, Wilson for sure. I'm not betting on the Jake Paul fight. Hell no. There's some fights on the card I'll bet on. They will rob Farmer. You think so? See, people are saying that they're going to rob Farmer even if he wins. I've seen I've seen judges and cards lately, though. We just saw it in Hollywood, Long Beach, the LA Fight Nights, and there was a fight in Mexico to where I think that narrative is shifting because Floyd isn't a world champion yet. I don't think they're protecting that O as much as people think they are in terms of robbing, you know, willing to rob him or willing to rob Farmer for the sake of Scoffield. I don't think so. You know, I don't know if people are that invested on Floyd Scoffield like people think they are in terms of what they think he could do in that division. I mean, we'll see. I'm not sold on him. You got to prove it to me. That's all I'm saying. You got to show me. You know, it's kind of like what one of my favorite moments in that Errol Spence Jr. Bud Crawford lead up. I'm betting on 4 fights. When Bud Crawford told EJ to his face, Errol said he was going to dog walk him. He said he was bigger than him. He said he was tougher than him. And Crawford just goes, you got to show me. You got to prove it to me. He was, I don't care about any of that. That's how I feel about Farmer, or that's how I feel about Scoffield. I haven't seen it. So anyway, yeah, I'm betting on Kira Rustin, Vegas Larfield, Liam Wilson, and Paro. Some home cooking. I've been doing really well the last 6 months on the Aussie cards. You know, the fights in Cairns, Queensland. This is a homecoming for both boys. Both guys, you know, this win propels them in their respective divisions to get back on track. We know Paro, former world champion at 40, and we know Wilson fought for the chance to be a champ against Navarrete and Valdez at 30. Didn't go his way. The Navarrete fight was insane. Younger, slick, athletic. That's a good argument. Auntie Sco's gonna jump in the ring. Johnny, quick question. Why are your fights sometimes during the week? I don't know. I love it, Lyle Schmidt. Those are my favorite fights. You know, we see a lot in Australia, midweek fights. I think it's a historic thing. I think that it goes back. Australia has a huge boxing culture. Yeah, Rafael Nunes, brought up some good points, siding with Scoffield. But the midweek fights go all the way back to like the 50s. It's kind of like a, tradition. But I always find myself making a lot of money on these fights, and then even the Japan fights. We'll see, Rando. It's a fun fight. The Farmer versus Schofield has a lot of people talking. Jimenez by decision, Zerto by decision. Yeah, Jimenez by decision's insane. You got the Australia full card money line. On what Boz on one parlay that's working, I have money line, and on the second parlay, I have method of victory. I'm kind of rolling. I'm gonna roll with Wilson and Paro by decision on a separate ticket. Until it's not Schofield knows what he's up against. He's not discriminating, looking past him. So what if? So you guys really, you Schofield fans really think he's legit? I mean, let's see something. I mean, he hasn't even been that active either, though. Last year he fought twice. You know, November he fought November of 2024 against Renee. I mean, this will be his third fight in a calendar year. I don't know. I'm not. Haskell Rhodes, Ricardo Torres, Suero, Renee Gueron. I don't know. I'm willing to roll the dice based on this. Actually, I don't think Schofield's elite. Yeah, I'm gonna die on that hill. I don't think Schofield's elite from what I've seen from his fights. I've watched his last 4 fights. At 22 years old, who he thinks he is, how he fights. I don't think he's that guy. I don't. He can be. I don't think he's that guy yet. I feel real comfortable taking Tevin Farmer based off of what he brings to the table, his whole arsenal. We've seen it before, getting caught up in the market. Floyd's been marketed really well. I'll be happy either way for Floyd and Farmer. I'll put 66 on Farmer to win, but I won't be mad if he loses. Maybe not even better. Give the kid room to... Yeah, it's a tough fight at 22. Purple Posse. That's why the hat gets tipped. That's why we were shocked that they were pairing up with Shakur. I mean, I saw people predicting he was going to... Shakur said he was going to pull out. Shakur said it at the press conference. Schofield was going to pull out. What does that tell you? The underlying narrative around the boxing gyms knew that he was going to pull out, meaning that he's not there yet. If he gets past, he'll learn a lot. He'll learn a lot from Farmer. I had it the other day, silently sobbing. What card did they take off? Yeah, PJ. I have it up right now. Renee Gueron, his last fight was in November. Esther Soro, Ricardo Torres, Haskell Rhodes. I mean, nobody really jumps off Schofield's top 10 and his weight? I don't even know. I don't know if no, I wouldn't put him top 10 in his weight. Here's the guy. Okay. Does Schofield beat any of these guys? We're just going on the algorithm real quick. This is BoxRec. You could go to BoxRec right now. We're just going to go on the algorithm. Tank's at 1, Shakur's at 2, Murataya's at 3, Zepeda's at 4, Keyshawn's at 5, Abdullah's at 6, Lamont Roach is at 7, Sam Noakes is at 8, Zaire Abdullayev is at 9, Itsuki's at 10, Javier Herrera's 11, Luis Lopez 12, Andy Cruz 13, Erden Bot 14, Lucas Body 15, Ryo 16, Floyd Schofield 17, Tevin Farmer 18, Albert Bell. Dude, poor Albert Bell at 19. Talk about a kid who, top rank. Nobody, that kid. Albert Bell can't get a fight. Unbelievable. Corruption in boxing. No one talks about Albert Bell. Poor 27-0. He can't get a fight, so he gets dropped by his promotion. Like, he's an Ohio guy. I've been following his career. No one ever talks about him. Yeah, played for the Indians. I'm talking about the boxer too, Prince. Toledo, Ohio. 27-0, 6 foot. He's a 6 foot lightweight. Yeah, no, he can't get a fight. Because nobody will sign on the dotted line, yeah, he's from Toledo. Because he can't get a fight, he got dropped. I'm pretty sure Top Rank dropped him. He needs promoted, he needs marketed. Time is a cure for having more names on there. I get it, 100%. He don't beat nobody on that list. Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think Schofield, I don't think so. I just don't think Schofield's that guy. I'm sorry. You know, we're right sometimes and we're wrong sometimes when we say these things. I don't think Schofield's that guy. I don't. He's athletic. I don't think he's even top 10. I think it's crazy he's ranked above. He's only, put it this way, guys. Farmer's lost his last 3 fights. Twice to Zepeda, once to Murataya, and he's ranked 1 spot behind Schofield on that list. 115, 113. All I can bet is a Wilder fight. Dude, I'm staying away from the Wilder fight. I'm staying away from the John Pascal fight. God, dude, John Pascal, he just turned 92 years old. He fought Brian Norman in 2007. This is John Pascal who fought Carl Froch in 2008. The cruiserweight division's insane. And the crazy thing is, if Pascal wins, he fights for a world title. What the fuck, dude? That cruiserweight division needs some insertion of new money in there. And this is new blood, but hey, I'm not hating. Who am I to judge? Pascal will win the fight. Is he going to beat Siciliac? I don't think so. Those Polish guys, you got to bring in a goddamn, like, baseball bat. They just take beatings. Great athlete, great boxer, 2 different things. Nadu Su's still good boxer. He's only 42. My bad. I'm just playing. I mean, yeah, I think Siciliac stops him. If you could get that, I like Siciliac to stop Pascal. We might have Bob Paro on the other car. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, we're about 35 minutes in. Like this video. On my channel, go to playlists, fight predictions. I've uploaded Liam Wilson fight prediction, Liam Paro fight prediction. Those are the 10, 15-minute videos that are edited uninterrupted. Today I'm doing Farmer vs. Schofield, and then I'm also going to be doing Zerto. I'm uploading Zerto. Everyone here acting like we did just, I know. Kivo G. Don't sleep on Donaire too. Everyone in here acting like Nonito Donaire didn't just do what he just did. So the Australian card starts in about 12 hours, Mark. It's 7 a.m. here. The Australian card starts, the undercard about 5. Help with this heavyweight fight. Who winning? Makamudov versus Ricardo Brown. PJ, I ain't messing with those heavyweights, mate. 2 a.m. PS. It's always this way. Never found anyone beat some names. It is this way. Billy Sulecki, the sleeper, good one. Yeah, I'm uploading that card, that fight too. It's gonna be a good fight. But Billy versus Sulecki's gonna be. By the way, Johnny, how are you? Yeah, I will be Kivo. I have 2 working. I'll post them in the post section. I got a lot of work to do on the channel today. I gotta upload 2 more videos. I'm gonna do a live stream for the fights. So yeah, Callum Peters, huge favorite. Look, the odds aren't gonna be great on the Australian card, but you guys are gonna see some good fighters. One of the guys that is flying under the radar, in my opinion, domestically is Kira Rustin. We've covered him on the channel. Kira Rustin is a good boxer. Who would you pick? Have you got your outcomes on the Australian card? I did, boss. Zerto getting TKO. You did a parlay. Yeah, a lot of questions coming in. So I have 2 parlays tonight. A money line parlay and a method of victory parlay. Taro, appreciate the UK love is always off the hook. Who's the biggest hype job in boxing? That's, that's so objective. It's opinionated. We're out here trying to spit facts and predictions right now, so we're going to stick to the game plan, and I'll get to your question maybe another day, but hype jobs, I mean, who am I? Like, even whatever I say, I don't think my voice holds much relevance on calling a professional athlete a hype job. So I'd like to show a little bit more reverence to the sport. But yeah, that's no shade to the questions. It's a solid question, but we're out here, we're 40 minutes in, we're talking about the fight cards. Yeah, there you go. I wouldn't even call him, yeah. Okay, I guess the question was important. 4-leg tonight, Wilson Paro, I love it. Oh, I didn't see the UFC one. Jack Catterall, yeah, of course. I'm breaking down the Catterall Eubank fight. I watch all the British fights, mate, Terrell. You could find breakdowns on the UK cards. I find my most luck, the UK domestic fights are, some of my favorite fights to watch, and some scraps. So I'm definitely Boots Ennis. No way, he's definitely not a hype job. Boots Ennis is world class gold. I still didn't get Paro fight yet. So PJ, you're not getting the option to bet on the Paro fight? And good. You calling Boots a hype job is insane, dude. That dude at 27 years old, that kid is unbelievable what he does in the ring. And I'm not even saying that because I'm a fan. Just when you watch what he does in there, how he boxes, adjustments, how he does, his speed in both hands, both sides of the plate, the feints, his willingness to be in a dogfight, just alone. Let's say Boots didn't have any of the skills he has, and you just watched a guy who wants to be in a dogfight. Come on, dude. Calling him a hype job's insane. And, look Ennis versus Madrimov. I love that fight. I love that fight. I love Ennis versus Madrimov. That's gonna be if they say that's going down, I'll break it down. That like some fights are really fun for me to break down stylistically. That would be one of them. But look who's in the top 10 at 147, guys. Did you see who broke the top 10 list? Chukachin. That dude's a tough out, dude. You guys are sleeping on Karen Chukachin. That dude's a tough out. Just because, he lost twice to Boots. He's in the top 10 at 147. That dude would give... I think Chukachin beats Barrios at 47. That's not even controversial. I think Chukachin, and I'm a huge Brian Norman Jr. fan, based on Chukachin's style, I think Chukachin would be a good fight for Brian Norman Jr. at 47, based off where they are in their careers. Because Norman's still developing. And you guys know how high I am on Norman. Do you care to share the insight Muscles gave you on the former? Okay, Mike, Mita, good question. He was wrong. So, 2 live streams ago, Muscles had insider information about the Scoffield and Farmer fight, but he then called me and said, hey, mate, I was wrong. It didn't happen. It was a rumor. So, that's to answer your question. Did somebody say Haney's rumored to fight? I wouldn't call him a trash can. Come on, mate. He's a world champion. You can't call him a trash can. That's just disrespectful. You're welcome. Bill Haney's doing the rounds wanting to fight everybody right now. I don't think a fight with Brian Norman Jr. is a good idea for Haney right now. I'd like to see, it'll never happen, but if Haney wants to go to 47, I'd like to see him versus, if he could beat Chukachin. I don't think he could. I don't know. Karen could fight, dude. Karen got skills. The rumor, PJ, was that Floyd Schofield had an injury. That was the rumor. The rumor was that Floyd had an injury and that he was going to fight through it. Ellis versus Haney. Oh, Polanco's a beast, dude. I'd love to see it. Great call on that. Ellis is a good fighter too, Mark. I'm up on Polanco. He still has some development to do. I think he could be too, Posse. What's the thing about what's one of the most important things for a fighter at the highest level? Skill set aside. Here, we've seen Norman get stunned. We've seen him get touched up, and we've seen that dog just come every single time. We've seen his style evolve. Teo should have fought. Yeah, I agree. That would have been a good matchup for Teo. Ellis will beat the brakes off Haney. I don't know. I think Haney will target the Donovan. Lewis Crocker, that's a good idea. People don't talk about Lewis Crocker. Lewis Crocker could box. Yeah, there's some names there. It definitely, I think with Brian Norman's performance against Sasaki, I think that one performance, even though Boots left to 54, I think Norman's performance was enough to kind of add a little bit more respect on 47. It's not. Posse, what's not? Yeah, that was the rumor. He's not injured. Crawford. You got go. It's so funny that there's like this subsector of boxing fans who pride themselves in creating like comedic nicknames based on fighters' last names. I assume you guys are under the age of 30. No shade. You know what you just did. I just see it in my comments all the time how people will change fighters' last names for like a reaction. And I was like, that's definitely a younger generation thing to do. replace Tank. Guys, we're 45 minutes in. Okay. Let's like this video. I'm gonna keep it live. We're doing live for the fights tonight. I'm uploading the Scoffield versus Farmer breakdown. And let's get this money, man. Like I said, the only method of victories right now for tonight are the decision, knockout, stoppage props for Wilson and Paro. Nothing else on the card has opened up. I like Larfield. I think he's at $1.18 right now. And then Kira Rustin. Kira Rustin should get the stoppage if you could get it. The dude's style is aggressive. If you've never seen him box, watch his tape. I featured him once on the channel. He's a huge favorite. He's gonna stop his opponent. Stephen Butler fight. What do you think of the Stephen? Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. I mean, Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. It's very tough to say Haney, because Brian Norman Jr. can move a bit. You know, definitely can move better than Jose Ramirez. And we know Brian Norman Jr. I think Haney would try to. That's a bad matchup for Devin Haney, mate. You know, because Norman Jr. is only about 5'8", he cuts a lot of weight to make 47. We have a guy on our chat. I apologize if I, forget his name. He lives in the Caribbean, somewhere in the Caribbean, and he said that I'm liquidating all my Pokemon and putting it on Canela. He said that he met Norman Jr. at a coffee shop he works at. He said he couldn't believe he makes 47, just in terms of how thick he is. And you see him box. He's put together really well. I think Norman's special. Biggest test by far. Biggest test by far, guys. There's a UK card this weekend, right? Somebody was asking me about that. I'm not getting any options. Off to work, Brett. Appreciate you. Catch the live stream tonight, Brett. I'll be live. Larfield on points. Love it, Kane. Those boxer lunches are boxer punches. Boxer punchers. Yeah. Spell check. Especially when they're willing, they are scary, especially when they're only, 24 and still figuring things out. Some 24-year-olds are finished products. Norman keeps evolving. I said it in his last two fights. It's this what he brings into the ring. It's this, of his class, even go down to 140, go down to 135. Think about the champions at 35, 40, 47, 54. Norman Jr.'s mindset, that attitude he fights with, because you can't fake that. That to me is equally as special as any other physical thing that he brings to the table. I think it's equally, if not the most important thing of his game, is that. And, that comes from his pops. That comes from his discipline. That comes from, I love the revelry he has with his father. I love that. Yeah, thanks, Moran. My girlfriend was complaining my hair was getting longer. I love that matchup. I think too soon right now for Norman, though. Too soon right now. Even though Virgil's only 26, Virgil might be 27 now. Norman's 24. Too soon. But what a fun fight that would be. Yeah, like even when you watch Norman when he stopped Sasaki, what he did, he bowed to the Japanese crowd. Even what he said in the post-fight conference. He comes to conquer. It's more about, he doesn't mind traveling. The kid was a teenager fighting in Mexico. I've seen Larfield. He's good. Kane, Vegas Larfield's only loss, in my opinion, was he got robbed. Good. Virgil Ortiz is one of my favorite fighters. Purple Posse, catch it. Yep. Appreciate you guys tapping in. I think so. Guys, wherever you are, we're going on 50. Could you like this video? Our subs are going, we're going from like 50 to 70 viewers, but just like the video. Keep this going. Stay tuned to the channel. I broke down the Wilson fight, broke down the Paro fight. You could check that in the playlists. I'm uploading Scoffield versus Farmer today, and then I'm going live again for the fights. So that's at the end of the day. This is 7:20 a.m. Wednesday morning here in Australia. I'll keep it going. But yeah, the Brian Norman Jr. guys, who is there another fighter who fights like I deadass don't like, but I got you because you're kind of smart. It's all good, mate. You don't have to like me. But I am the type of guy you could ask the people who know me. I don't live a life with enemies. So even if you were an enemy of mine, I would befriend you. Life's too short to hate on people. Tank. Oh, yeah, Tank. It's tough for me to cheer for Tank. I mean, I'm not going to be a hater, but 30 years old, that's a whole nother conversation. I've been roasted in my comments before about my opinion on Tank. I I even got people made me take this video down. 2 years ago I did Tank's chronological arrest record. This was when I was still figuring YouTube out, and I wasn't even. It wasn't even. You didn't even see my face. It was just one of those like videos with an instrumental in the background, just with the facts. And mate, people. So yeah. Anyway, every time he fights, I tune in. You know, he does. He's electric, but we want to see him fight champions. We want to see at 30 years old unification fights. We want to see how good he is. But he boost Johnny's stats here. Great, nice space. Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, we keep it very copacetic here. That's why I like my channel. That was my goal 2 years ago, was to create a space where we could get boxing heads and not have to worry about clickbaits. You're never gonna see me with special effects doing crazy shit. We're out here just talking about the sport. Meech. Yeah, all right, good. This is why we all get along. You know, or we could talk boxing. Should be funny. Yeah, Simon, agree. And it's weird that we live in this space right now in the boxing world that if we bring that up in certain groups, we'll get crucified for it. You can't even question in certain groups that Tank isn't the GOAT. The minute you question how he goes about his business, you're deemed a hater. And it's like, nah, man, dude, I became a fan of Lamont that night, mate. Dude, Purple Posse, yesterday on our live stream, if you tapped in, we were talking about James Toney. I was telling you about when I was younger, James Toney was one of my favorite fighters. When you look at Tony's career from starting at 160 all the way up to heavyweight, I mean, the guy beat Evander Holyfield at heavyweight. He was at 160. He does it but the genius of Tony was in the pocket. The genius of Tony was being in small spaces, being able to hit and not get hit. You know, Lamont Roach against Tank was showing me that. I did not know Lamont Roach had that in him, staying in the wheelhouse, in the middle of the ring. Think about it. The fight was boring early on, which, you know, when you see how it played out, it makes sense because Roach was figuring Tank out, figuring the space out, figuring out his power, figuring out his range, figuring out the distance. And I think it was the 6th round. It might have been the 6th or the 5th was the first time where Roach landed a catch and counter, where he started catching and countering him. And it's like, oh, what is this? And he wasn't taking a step back. And then by like the 7th round onwards, a lot of the fight was happening in the middle of the ring. And that's because Roach, I didn't know he had it in him. His fans were telling me I should have seen it. I didn't see it in prior fights, but it was kind of akin to how Tony used to fight, staying in the pocket, catching, countering, using his skill, his reaction. Mate, Tony versus Canelo and their primes, sign me up. Yeah, PJ, that's an adjustment he's going to have to make. When someone has your timing out, everything, yeah. And it's something that I talk about all the time when we're thinking about the most important elements to a fighter's game. People will just say power, but I put timing above power. I think timing as a world-class fighter is the #1 skill to develop, because the one thing is, it's a little bit of skill, but a lot of instincts as well. So a lot of timing comes with intuitiveness, predictability. So things that on paper you can't really teach, but you could train it. It's kind of like a quarterback who's really good at throwing a lead pattern. So like I played quarterback my whole life up until I graduated high school. And one of my favorite passes to throw was a deep post. So right-handed quarterback, my wide receiver, his name was Rashad. He played college ball at Mercyhurst. And we would run a play with deep post. And he'd start split left. I'm doing a 7-step drop opposite. So I'm fake right, rolling out right. He's on the left, and he's streaking and then cutting down. So as I roll out, I plant, and then I have to throw the ball. I have to release the ball in a position where Rashad's not at. And so it's like that. That intuitiveness, you know, that's what being a great that's a skill in terms of timing. Boxers have to develop as well. Being able to punch sometimes when the angle really isn't there yet, and predicting that you're going to force the guy to be in that position. And this is what traps are. You know, it's, you hear analysts saying, look at the trap he set. You know, that's one trap that you could set based on feints or, you know, slickness. You could put your opponent in a position that you want them to be in, that they don't know that they don't want to be in until you land the punch. Yeah, think about the Canelo knockout versus Amir Khan. Even that, you know, that was like a 5-round trap that Canelo was setting. Like when you could watch that knockout and just watch the knockout viral, mate. But you could also watch the knockout from the whole approach, and then you see what Canelo did. You know, he baited him into this false sense of safety. He even was getting hit, you know, was getting touched a bit, false sense of safety. And once he had that little space, boom, knockout. Oh, fuck. Dude, it's one of my favorite knockouts based off the trap he set. It was fucking high level. And Khan, you know, he fought Khan's ego. Khan in his head was giving it to Canelo. Khan in his head was winning every round. Khan in his head wasn't in danger until boom, lights out. That was a multi-round trap. That wasn't a one-punch knockout, guys. That was Canelo setting up a multi-round trap, dude. Doesn't get spoken about enough. We all, like, for what it was, dude, it's one of my favorite knockouts. So he's at the, you know, that could segue us into Canelo Crawford, because that's a whole nother conversation. Whole nother conversation. All right, guys, we're approaching an hour. I'm going to keep it on for a couple more minutes. We got 60 in here. We got 30 people liking. However you could support the channel. The super chats are cool. The liking the video, cool. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe. All the little support helps us out. My best friends try to take my head off and sparring. The truest honesty and friendship, honor, respect. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Rafael, there's also, you know, there's a fine line. Let's say that Rafael Luna, your buddy lands that punch and he sees you hurt. Hopefully a good friend wouldn't go for the kill. You know, if he sees you, you know, maybe you get buzzed. I'll only spar with guys who don't do that. You know what I'm saying? And at this stage of the game, we're not even trying to buzz too much. You know, we're trying to hold each other accountable and we're trying to problem solve. But, you know, when I was younger in my 20s, definitely, even in my teens, oh shit, when I'm 13 and 14, we're trying to kill each other. But yeah, you want to spar responsibly. That's why it's always insane for me when I see these sparring videos go viral or fucking sparring partners are knocking each other out. That's insane. I think if you want, you know, if somebody's new to the sport of the, you know, sparring, all you'd have to do is go to Thailand and look how the Thai spar. My sessions, that's how it is, like a war zone. DJ, you guys are wild. And dude, but that's good work. You know, if you're trying to, I think that's necessary to a degree. If you're really on that warrior's journey on becoming a pro and making something of your career, it's important to have firefights so you know how to react, so you know how it feels to be in danger. So that's important too. But then it comes down to, you know, having a team around you, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to say, hey, take a day off, take 2 days off. Also, you know, intuition. It is good work once you get used to, yeah. And then intuition, knowing when you need to take a day off, because we know sometimes, you know, Prashad Cologne. Okay, so how they spar in Thailand, I'll answer this now and then I'll get to Prashad Cologne. How they spar in Thailand is like they tap. So this is why Thai fighters could fight. They have like over 400 career fights, and it's Muay Thai, and they spar every day. But they're tapping, they're having fun, they're playful, they're not sitting on anything. Tap, 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 tap. You know, it's not like boom, boom. It's not throwing, sitting down heavy on shots. I rarely will ever throw, actually, at this stage of the game. I'll rarely ever throw my hooks, to be honest with you. Maybe I'll throw a hook to the liver. Maybe I'll sit down. Yeah, I'm lying. I'll rarely ever throw hooks to the head, but I'll sit down on some hooks to the liver, especially if I'm fighting a guy who's overextending on his right hand and he's trying to sit down on a cross. You know, then you get the timing a bit and you kind of eat it, high guard, eat it, and then boom, rip that liver. It's one of my favorite moves. But Prashad Cologne, back to DJ, what DJ was talking about with the headaches. When you look at what happened with Prashad Cologne, you know, top ranked guy, I think he was 15-0. He's the one who In his last fight, his opponent was warned 12 times for back of the head shots, and you know, goes into a coma. It's one of the saddest stories in boxing. He's only what, 30 now, but yeah, wheelchair, paraplegic, quadriplegic. But look at his resume before that fight. No one talks about this. Did a video on this as well 2 years ago. Got it. Somebody got it taken down. So DJ, if you're still on the stream, this is important, mate, in terms of the headaches. Look at Prashad Cologne's resume up until that fight. Look how many times he fought. Look how active he was up until that fight. He never gave time. Thanks. He never gave time for himself to recover. And he didn't know. Like, people were blaming his opponent, the back of the head, back of the head, back of the head. But when you look at how busy he was as a fighter, you got to think he already had swelling. It never took enough time to rest. Yeah, he was good. You know, people, you know, bookend his story with his opponent, and his opponent was never the same. I think maybe fought once after, if so. And but you can't tell his story without telling the story of how active he was up until that, and then didn't take enough rest. And I'm not blaming it on anybody. It's horrific, but it's up. And so DJ, it's up to yourself, your team, to know when to pull back if you're going too hard too often, because the brain needs rest, guys. Recovery is huge. Recovery is equal. Like at 43, recovery for me, you know, I power lift. I back squat, deadlift, press, bent row 5 days a week. I run 100 kilometers of road miles. I've been doing this since October 2020. I don't never talk about it, but I do 100 kilometers through a month since 2020. But I also do 3 hours of mobility and yoga a week. I do the dry sauna 4 days a week. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke weed anymore. You know, really haven't done that in like 10 years. I don't eat processed foods. My point is, all of that is recovery. So when you get to a certain level, recovery is equally as important as output. You have to have that balance. You can't just go output. You need to recover. Reason why Tim now will never be the same. History Vault, tapping in at an hour into the stream. What's up, brother? Yeah. But guys, I gotta roll out. My girl actually spent the night last night. So I'm trying to, that's why I'm keeping it low. So she spent the night last night, and I'm gonna go give her a cuddle, say what's up, start my day.